A 4 to 5 year old, I thought he was cool, right? What he was not was a disciplinarian by the first or second definition. In our household, that role fell to my mom. In fact, I can't think of a time when my dad engaged in any sort of harsh words or corporal punishment. Corporate punishment. That's a slip of my retired days. Corporate punishment, what's that? Corporal punishment, even though it just wasn't in his nature. Now, at some point early on, isn't it interesting how this happens? I began to find fault with how my dad was fathering. When I was about 7 or 8, I really fell in love with the Dodgers, and I wanted very much to be following the footsteps of Maury Wills as a major league shortstop. Now, for those of you who are under the age of, say 60, Maury Wills means nothing to you, but it means a lot to me. So, alas, neither my dad nor I had a natural athletic gift. But at the time, I was more than a little disappointed that my dad did not want to spend much time playing catch or teaching me the fundamentals of fielding ground balls. I resented the fact that my cousins had a miniature ballpark in their backyard. So what I was not aware of at the time was that he really was doing the best with what he knew, and that he actually may have been as frustrated as I was that he was not able to provide me with this instruction that he knew I wanted. What he was able to provide me with was my first trombone. He had played the trombone during his time in the Navy, and it was something that actually did resonate with me. In time, I became quite proficient. That time was a long time ago. This was an early demonstration. Of his legacy as a musician, which I really didn't appreciate until years later. But playing the trombone became an important part of my middle school years and beyond as I joined a community band that was sponsored by the Elks Lodge, and we traveled we went to Canada, we went to Washington, D.C. It really was my life as a young teenager. And my dad gave me a gift at that time that I really, again, didn't fully appreciate at the time, in that he became the equipment manager for the band. So he would drive the equipment truck to the parades and events and so forth. And as I mentioned, he liked to tinker, so this suited his need to, take care of the drum heads and all that sort of thing. But he also served on the parent board, and this is another demonstration to me of not only how to serve as a parent, but to be a leader in community organizations. And I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. As a teenager, like many teenagers, I allowed myself to become increasingly disenchanted with my dad. If the Ross children or the Carlton children are in the household, pay no attention to this next part. You do not need to be disenchanted with your parents. So I knew early on, for example, that I was going to go to college. Now, I was the first person on either side of my family to go to college, and I was rather expecting that my dad would have some words of wisdom on how to do this. But of course, he had no idea, and I was very frustrated about that. I was disappointed. But, with the wisdom of age and distance, I know now what my dad did provide for me was something far different from what I judged to be the ideal of fatherhood. Unfortunately, at the time, I invested a lot of energy thinking about this was not the father I wanted, deserved, or would be for my own children. I would have done well at that point to heed the advice of Corinthians 3 and 13. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Not only does the Lord forgive, but he has a sense of humor, I just want you to know. And that sense of humor comes in the form of your own children. Am I right? Am I right? Okay. And the good thing about it is he's persistent in providing opportunities to demonstrate it. So when our first child, Megan, was born, I had just been involved on the side of management in a very emotionally draining union organizing campaign. The election was just finalized, right before Megan was born, and I was really burned out. And so with all my wisdom and discernment, I quit my job within weeks of her birth. So I started fatherhood with no job, moved my family in with my mother-in-law, and the phrase self-sabotage comes to mind. But in truth, I was really overwhelmed by the experience of being a new father. I really was. Where was the damn manual? I kept looking for it, and it wasn't there. I began to feel like there wasn't enough time to contemplate being a father and providing and protecting my growing family. And isn't it ironic that when this responsibility of fatherhood is thrust upon us, is often during a time of our lives when we're trying to find our new way and a new role as independent adults. But this was a precious being who I held and cuddled, and I really couldn't imagine allowing anything bad to happen to her. You hear that little squeak? You heard that, didn't you? Yeah. I told her I would teach her about truth and beauty, and saying to her, "You are my sunshine," which she was and still is. In fact, many years later, we sang that song at our wedding reception. It was one of the most precious moments of my life. By the time Michael was born, which was not that a year and a half later, we had moved to Oregon and back. We had moved there because we intended to live a different lifestyle than we were experiencing in California. They called us the young pioneers. However, we were young and brief pioneers. And we realized when we knew that Michael was coming along that we really needed to come back home to have the support of family. And that, again, coming back to Grandpa Cook's message to me. So I took a job managing the Caros at 28th and J. You may remember that. If you're over 60, because if you're not, it hasn't been there since you were born. No, that's another story. And it turns out that I really enjoyed it. I really loved the restaurant business, but it was a 24-hour restaurant, so it was 6 days a week. And on the seventh day, you did not rest, you collapsed, right? That's the way it was. And then I wish I had known at the time this piece of advice from Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher. He said, in work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be present. Important. It was important to know that. And that job did not allow me time to do both. So not long after Andrew was born, well, it really was longer than it's like 6 months later Andrew was born, and 3 months later April was born. No, that was not the timeline. It didn't work that way. It didn't work that way. So I was ready to be on the other side of the hospitality table, wanted to spend time and weekends and holidays with my family, and so I got into a sales job, and I was pretty successful at it, but I really wasn't happy. So by the time April was born, the pendulum had swung, and although I was present in my family life, I had not yet found work that I enjoyed. So from the time Megan was born until April arrived, I had more jobs than children. It was my life. Fortunately, I had the good fortune to go to work at Hewlett-Packard, which was a great family job, great job for a family man, and I continued there for nearly 20 years. So as my kids became old enough to participate in organized community activities, I began to volunteer. Have a ring to it? First in the preschool class, and then the treasurer of the preschool, and then field trips and class representative and t-ball coach and soccer coach and cub master and scout master and overnight field trips and the track and cross-country booster. In fact, we even kept the Boy Scout equipment trailer in our driveway. Oh, history is repeating itself here. I wonder what I learned from my dad. So, it turns out that it matters not whether my dad had intentionally set out to teach me this love of service, but surely he had demonstrated the essence of Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So I can certainly admit now that my harsh judgments of my dad for not teaching me my very narrow definition of what a father should be was certainly not the whole story of what he was providing to me. Eventually, my responsibilities of my work began to include a significant amount of international travel, which I really loved. At one point, I was going to Asia and Latin America for 10 days every 6 weeks, which, that was pretty fun for me. And while I realized this was highly enjoyable, I realized that once again I tipped the scales of Lao Tzu's equation, and my enjoyment of work was infringing on my presence in family life. And by now my children were well into their teens, and I realized that the years were passing by. I needed to make some adjustments, and I worked for a place that allowed me to do so. And I was able to, again, be more present for my family. For me, fatherhood has been a paradox. The paradox was that I had this image that fathers had to be always strong, always powerful, all-knowing, confident self-protectors and providers. And there were many times when I didn't feel any one of those things, right? What I did feel was loving, nurturing, playful, and preparing them to be self-reliant, confident, and able to make decisions in their own best interest. And I'm going to humble brag, I succeeded with Candy mightily in doing that. We have fantastic children. It's one of the joys of my life. And what I wanted my kids to know was that I loved them no matter what, that I wanted them to feel special because I was participating with them in their special activities that they were enjoying, and to model to them the importance of sharing natural leadership ability and core values like inclusion. Now, I wrote this a little bit ago, and I reread that, and I thought, well, that's how I benefited. I happen to know that my sons, especially when I was the scoutmaster, would just wish that they were not the scoutmaster's son. Come on, Dad. Come on. I want to go play magic at summer camp. I don't want to do it. But they turned out okay. So I also wanted to share with them that they could experience abundance in life, even if the demonstration of monetary wealth was not present. So I used to share with Candy and the kids, it's not the case that we don't have enough money. We choose to spend it differently than some of your friends' families. And that is work, that is held, yes. So as I reflect on this journey of fatherhood, I realize how I've chosen to show up in my own children's lives is by no means accidental or coincidental, and certainly not independent of what my own father and my grandfathers taught me, how they showed up in my life as opposed to how I judged it at the time. Those are two very different things. I pray that my own children have a similar experience based on how I show up in their lives, and I also pray that they look at the body of work and know that there were some missteps along the way. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, there is no manual, but we all do and give our best, and our best is enough. I also have a whole new appreciation of Luke 12 and 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I think that for me, this is my experience, that's all I ever wanted to do, is give my children the kingdom. And as I shared earlier, I'm now able to practice being the grandfather I wish I'd had. I spend a lot of time laughing and playing and reading, and I just watch it in amazement and amusement as they learn to make their way in the world. I'm blessed beyond measure with the life I lead, and I know that each of my ancestors provided me with the best that they knew, and their best was good enough. So before I close, I want to take a moment because I have been on, for the last 4 days. My birthday was Wednesday, and my birthday, thank you. And once again, I am 39 years old and holding. That is not true. I'm 69, and I'm very happy about that. I'm glad to live this long. But Wednesday started my the birthday celebration adventure with the family, and every day and every night this week, they have all been there with me. And so some of them are here with me today, and I'd just like them to stand. So Megan, Michael, Candy, if you could stand, please. I just want you to know that your presence means more than you will ever know. And I understand. And my other son, Andrew, and his family had to go to Southern California this morning. They had this thing called work for tomorrow. I don't know what that's. I used to do that, but that's the old days. But, so whether your experience of fatherhood is similar to mine or something quite different, I encourage you to look at it from the perspective of your heart as you consider what you can learn from whatever the experience has been. And know that the way you're seeing it now, or the way you've been seeing it, or maybe the way you've held on to seeing it, isn't necessarily the only thing that your fathers can teach you. It's a wonderful experience, and I encourage you to celebrate your own, however that may happen. Thank you very much. I'm back, Chris, which I didn't know. So, before we hear from the choir, we have a Juneteenth acknowledgement from Dr. Christy Hagan. So I promise you'll get your opportunity, Dr. Christy. It's going to go together. It's all going to go together. Come on, trust me. And by the way, doesn't the choir and Dr. Christy, don't they look fabulous today? Oh my gosh, how much better can it get for Juneteenth? Thanks, Dr. Christy. All right.
I'm back. You see, I was trying to pass off to the choir, just in part because that was so phenomenal. Can we give it up for David? Yeah. What a powerful, powerful message. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. And thank you to your family for being here. So anyway, I was trying to mix it up because I'm like, it's just a lot of talking and talking and talking, but I will continue, right? Because, let me go back. Good morning, Unity of Sacramento. You can do better than that. Good morning, Unity of Sacramento. Thank you. I'm here to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. And as a Black woman, a person of African ancestry, a descendant of the enslaved, Juneteenth is a special day. It's a time of reflection, recognition, and celebration. And I'm honored to share some information with you about it today. So first question, who's heard of Juneteenth? All right, almost everybody has. Cool, cool. Next question, who's heard of Juneteenth and knows a little bit about it, but maybe not a whole lot? Okay. Who's heard about it and has a good understanding of Juneteenth, maybe celebrates it, was out at some of the events this weekend? Yeah, okay, good. So we got a good mix of people. Regardless, I want to start there with those questions because for many Americans, including Black Americans, myself included, Juneteenth was not celebrated in their families or taught in schools. It wasn't until activists and historians led grassroots movements for decades that the holiday has become more widely recognized. And in fact, Juneteenth officially became a federal holiday in 2021 when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Law Act into law. Right? And so while I and others are glad to see the holiday gain national recognition, we don't want to turn it into a commercialized event like other cultural holidays, right? Did you see the Juneteenth ice cream by Walmart last year? The ways, I didn't taste it either, but right? But the ways that things can be commercialized and are out of order, if you will, with the original intent. And so at its essence, Juneteenth recognizes the end of slavery in the United States, but there's much more to the story. And so let me tell you a little bit more, because we might know that surface, like, oh yeah, it's a celebration of the end of slavery, okay. But what's some of the underlying pieces about it? So we're all on the same page. So Juneteenth, it marks the anniversary of June 19th, 1865. It's a combination of June and 19th, right? So June 19th, 1865. And that's when enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas were notified by Union soldiers that they were free under the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, just for perspective, it was 2.5 years earlier, on December 31st, 1862, that enslaved and free Africans and African Americans gathered in churches and private homes across the country to celebrate what was known as Freedom's Eve. They were anticipating news that President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation that ended slavery in the Confederate States would become official on January 1st, 1863, which it did. However, not everyone in the Confederate territory would immediately be free, and even though the Emancipation Proclamation took effect in 1863, it could not be implemented in some places in the Deep South, still under Confederate control. So as a result, in Texas, the westernmost Confederate state, enslaved people would not be free until approximately 2,000 Union troops, led by Major General Gordon Granger, arrived in Galveston Bay on what date? June 19th, 1865, and announced that more than 250,000 enslaved Black people in the state of Texas were free by executive decree. Imagine that, right? So, as mentioned or not mentioned, but in 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom in California issued a proclamation commemorating Juneteenth in California. It says, "This Juneteenth, I urge all Californians to reflect on the ongoing cause of freedom for Black Americans, remembering that though General Granger's announcement in 1865 called for absolute equality, quote unquote, that vision was and remains far from complete." So we should always remember the reason for this holiday, for Juneteenth, is that our ancestors, my ancestors, enslaved Black people were set free from chattel enslavement 2.5 years after they were already free. So the truth is, in the years that followed, we're still filled with violence, hatred, and bigotry towards Black people. And unfortunately, these are things our community still deals with today. So why do we celebrate Juneteenth? Because it sounds like, oh, this is kind of sad and yet important and we should celebrate. Well, Juneteenth is a triumphant event worth remembering. And celebrations of any kind are about remembering and paying homage to something of significance that has occurred. So while most celebrations center on events that are joyous, like what? Births, graduations, marriages, which are awesome. Others pay tribute to the end of a period of conflict, allowing for the beginning of something new and joyous to occur. So there's some that we already celebrate. Veterans Day, right, is one example. Another is the 4th of July, Independence Day. And so these end of conflict celebrations often serve as a bridge in consciousness and an opportunity to heal raw emotions for individuals, families, communities, and nations alike. So while these celebrations can bring uncomfortable feelings associated with the conflicts, it's important that they occur. Because those who cannot remember the past are what? Condemned to repeat it. So the celebration of Juneteenth matters because our country cannot afford to repeat its past, quote unquote, sins, those ideas and those beliefs that generated beliefs, policies, and systems that were and are discriminatory, immoral, and inhumane. So the celebration of Juneteenth evokes our country's victory over an internal, oppressive, and immoral system that divided it and threatened to destroy it. Now that we know better, we must continue to do better. So we must continue to work, the work of creating a society where all people, right? All people, where we continue the work of creating a society where all people are appreciated, loved, and respected for who they are, regardless of the color of their skin, their disability status, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other aspect of who they are. So I invite you to celebrate Juneteenth with me, to celebrate the freedom of all people, because in truth, what we know, particularly at Unity, is we are one in spirit, we are one humanity, and we're not free unless or until we're all free. Amen.
Lift every voice that leads into greatness. Lift every voice.
Yesterday, your expressions of unity and Voices of Unity choir had the distinct privilege and honor, humble honor, to share the Negro National Hymn at the Juneteenth celebration in William Lamb Park. We will share with you now an encore of that performance. Of
before, believe it now. We come from greatness. By the way, if you don't know this, that was a song by Reverend Charles Cooper. And he intended it absolutely to celebrate Juneteenth. That is exactly what he's talking about here. Expressions in Unity Choir, you have outdone yourself. What a beautiful... And by the way, so I want to tell you about Redalia. You know, when she assigns the parts, she says, well, this is bass and alto and tenor, and there's sopranos, and then there's hollering sopranos. And that's, my friends, is a hollering soprano. Oh, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Chet, fellas, what a great day. Thank you. As I said, you can play anything, every kind of music, and they knock it out of the park. This is chakra, everyone. Oh, man. I'm feeling pretty good right now. How about you? Oh, well, there have been many things that we've been able to celebrate and share with you today. It's Pride Month, it's Juneteenth, it's Father's Day. If you didn't get a message today, I want you to come back tomorrow and listen. Oh, there won't be anybody tomorrow. So that'll be God talking to you saying, oh, you should have listened yesterday. It was spectacular. And so this is the time when we ask you to consider what you've heard and consider how you can contribute to Unity of Sacramento to continue this message, continue this ministry. Whether you are contributing in the sanctuary, there's an envelope in the chair in front of you if you'd like to mark it with. Be sure if it's a cash donation, you put your name on it so we can make sure that you get credited properly. If you're online, we're going to give you some instructions right here about ways that you can give to Unity of Sacramento. We ready for that? Great. Oh, it's a silent movie. I like it. That's okay. If they're watching on live stream, they can see where to go here. You go to the Unity of Sacramento and click the donate button. I can't do justice to Rev E's voice though.
Visit our website at www.unityofsacramento.com. Right there at the top of the front page, you will see a donation button. Click there to visit our safe and secure push pay portal. Another easy way to give is through our Unity of Sacramento app. Download the app on your smartphone or tablet, and on the front page, look toward the bottom of the page for your giving heart, which will also take you to our push pay portal. You can also write us. Send your letters to Unity of Sacramento, 9249 Folsom Boulevard, Sacramento, California, 95826. And of course, you can always make your donation by using Venmo or Cash App, as seen on your screen.
So now if you will, however you are giving, if you're using your phone, if you're giving in person, if you're a auto tither, thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Good thing that you were here today, Deborah. As always, thank you so much. If you will just take that offering and hold it next to your heart as we will share I will say it and you can repeat after me our Unity offering affirmation. Divine love in and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Oh, thank you, God, and amen. Ushers, please come forward. All right. So I do want to share with you while this is occurring, we're not going to do the coffee clutch after church today. We're not going to do it because I'm going home to have Father's Day dinner with my kids, and you should do the same. And Deborah is going. Deborah, why don't you come on? We can do that right now. Deborah Garcia, our operations manager extraordinaire, is going to share the announcements today. You know, the revs can go and they can take, but Deb stays here. She is the anchor, and don't you forget it. There you go.
How about now? Okay. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Before I get to the announcements, real quick, I just want to thank everybody who is doing all the extra today, and David for jumping in and not only being our speaker, but holding the whole platform down today. So thank you so much. And Dr. Christie for jumping in. I know we were really last minute with slides and things. Our ushers and our staff and our other volunteers jumping in and helping in the back today. You all don't see some of the crazy that goes on in the background, but we do, huh? And Mardell, yes, that's right. Mardell was up here today too. I just asked and she said yes. So thank you, everyone. So I want to start off with reminding you guys that next Sunday we're having a town hall meeting after service. And what we need from you is a completed survey. Some of you may have been handed one last Sunday. Right now in this packet that you received when you came in today is a slip with a link on it. And so we're actually going to stop for 5 minutes right now while you take out your phones if you're able. And I want you to put this code into a browser, and we're going to take 5 minutes to do this survey, and then we'll resume the announcements and the ending of the service today. So get your phones out, and ready, set, go. Do you have it? Does anybody need a code for the URL? Okay, raise your hand. Or if you need any assistance, just raise your hand so one of our ushers can help you. Yes, we're at the bottom of that slip where it says use this link. That's what you type in.
So, Deborah, before Deborah, no, Deborah, here. Before Deborah starts again, I want you to know that you may have heard the expression here, we got to keep the trains running on time. She's got the timer, just so you know.
Literally. All right, we're going to wrap this part up. If you're not done, though, you can continue to finish the survey while I finish the announcements. So thank you. And thank you, Chakra. That was fabulous. What a nice way to spend some time. And oh my gosh, I have to shout out the choir. You guys were amazing. Amazing. Thank you for giving us a reprise today. All right. So that's our survey. That's going to help us a whole lot for next Sunday. Now I'm calling on all of the fun volunteers. So one of our most successful fundraisers begins on June 28th. So that's coming up, our fireworks booth. So sign-ups are available right now to volunteer in the booth. Check out the slip you were handed when you walked in today. Our fabulous usher team put them in stacks for you. So check out the QR code on there, and please do sign up. It's a really, really good time, and we can't do it without you. So, and also information will be available in the live stream shortly. So we are having a lot of fun fundraising. So please check your handouts and the information table in the lobby for information on our shoe drive and our t-shirt fundraiser that has new designs for the summertime, including tank tops, that ends this Wednesday, June 21st. So be sure to get your orders in by Wednesday. And as you know, it's Pride Month, and we've chosen next Sunday, June 25th, as Pride Sunday. Please show your support to this beloved community always, as well as Pride Month, and show up on the 25th dressed in Pride colors. Wear a t-shirt, show off some jewelry, don the colors, however that looks to you. We are an inclusive community where everyone not only belongs, but everyone is celebrated. And so after service today, don't go to the coffee clutch. Do not stop by Savvy House Coffee Bar, but please do join us and grab a snack. And before you leave, make sure you stop by the information table that's out in the lobby right now. We have some other handouts that have more information about our programs today that you might be interested in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb. And so we come to the time when we sing our closing, our benediction song. So the words should be here for you. And if you know this, we just want you to know how glad we are that you were here today. Give yourselves a hand for being here today. It's been really a great day. We'll give the choir a chance to get. If you don't know, Redalia was actually interviewed by Channel 10 News yesterday and so she had an opportunity to talk about the meaning of Juneteenth. And I didn't get to see the performance because there was another activity happening, but I got this great video in a text message of them warming up. Oh my goodness, over the moon. They were terrific all day yesterday. So thank you so much, Unity of Sacramento, Expressions of Unity. Shall we? Please stand. Of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
called Song for My